So it's going to be one of those days. Yeah. When the mic is muted, it's muted. All right. So let's try that again. Take 2. Welcome to another go-round of SDH AM. John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. And it's going to be kind of a busy morning. We got a lot of news to go through this morning on a bunch of different levels. We do have some news that is breaking or that has broken out of Chicago. We'll get into that to start things off. Then we've got the recap of the weekend in Major League Soccer with everything else that happened to get us ready for the international break. We have teams that are announcing folks that are not going to be around because they have been asked to represent their countries in the international window. So we'll have those players, those player announcements as we have them. They started to trickle out yesterday. Atlanta United had theirs mentioned. So we'll get into that, and we'll get into the clubs that have made their players known publicly to what is going on with the international window and who's going to be here and who's not. And we've also got a lot of stuff going on overseas this morning, players who've said no, and teams that are hoping that they don't get told no on a couple of different things. So we've got news on the Premier League and a bunch of different fronts there. And let's see, we've got a new head coach in USL Championship. We've got a new assistant coach that is attached to a national team that is not the U.S. national team. And so we've got that and player moves and all the things. The annual meeting of the Premier League is today and tomorrow. And so we'll have maybe some thoughts on PSR Martin Ziegler when Martin Ziegler is attached to a byline. It's not necessarily something that you want, but Martin Ziegler's got news out of what could be happening with the Premier League meetings and all those kinds of things. So that's where we are this morning. So a lot of different things going on. And let me start things off with what's going on up in Chicago. I don't know if you guys had the chance to see what is going on. No, I don't want the pizza pasta bar version of this particular club, even though it has nothing to do with being related to it. Yeah, so it's going to be one of those mornings, I think. So here we go with the news out of Chicago this morning. If you haven't heard, like I said, it happened in late last hour. So we'll go ahead and we'll hit this and we'll talk about it. So the news out of Chicago is this. It is a letter from club owner for the Chicago Fire, Joe Mansueto. And so they are announcing plans for a new privately funded soccer-specific stadium in Chicago and an entertainment district at Roosevelt and the River, expecting to open in spring of 2028. New home for the Fire will anchor the city's future, and this is from the club. The city's future 78th neighborhood, serving as a catalyst for job creation, economic development, vibrant community life. Project more than a stadium, according to Mansueto. It's a space for fans of all ages, backgrounds, and neighborhoods to come together and celebrate the beautiful game right in the heart of the city. It's about investing in Chicago, not just on match days, but every day as a committed community partner. Fire is a club, capital C, on the rise, and soon we'll have a permanent home that reflects the passion, energy, and pride of the city that we love. That comes from Joe Mansueto this morning, owner and chairman of Chicago Fire Football Club. And so they have come up with a website called DearChicago.com. DearChicago.com. And so the plans have been announced for that 78th that 78th neighborhood. And so you can stay as up to date as possible on everything. So why is the stadium building their own gig? Why are they doing their own gig? Commitment to keeping the Fire playing in Chicago for decades to come. Clubs enjoyed playing its home matches on the lakefront. There remain limitations at the stadium, and this is once again the wording from the Fire. Remain limitations at the stadium for the Fire. It's a priority for the Fire to continue creating the best possible environment for its fans, players, and staff, seeing the positive impact soccer-specific stadium had across Major League Soccer. So, is it privately funded? Yes, according to Joe Mansueto. No public funds used to build the stadium. Once again, this is supposed to be between now and 2028. Capacity, approximately 22,000 for Fire with an increased capacity for concerts and other events. I'll tell you right now, that's too small. You've got to be 30,000 unless you're going to continue to have your relationship with Soldier Field for large events and you wander in. So when you have a Messi and Friends type event in Major League Soccer, you're only going to have 22,000. So basically what you're doing is you're selling yourself short. You're selling yourself short at 22,000. I'm hoping for your own sake and sanity that you will be bigger than that. And so what I'm going to do is just to satisfy my own curiosity here, stadium capacities in Major League Soccer. So here we go. 22 of the 30 have been mentioned. All right, so let's do this. Let's go to capacities, and let's set it up to where – all right, so we'll go from the bottom up. We'll go from the bottom up, considering that's what our friends at the Wikipedias have decided to do for us as we're looking at this particular situation. PayPal Park at 18,000. Colorado, 18,061. Children's Mercy Park, 18,467. Subaru Park in Chester, 18,500. Toyota Stadium currently at 19,096, and that's going to be changing with the renovations. Allianz at 19,400. Saputo, 19,619. I'm guessing there's a number attached to that. Audi Field, 20,000. Gillette in the lower bowl, 20,000. Capacity up to 65,878. RSL at 20,213. Crew at 20,371. Hell in a Shell, 20,656. Q2, which was released to the world the same year that the Death Star was in downtown Columbus, 20,738. The Erector set right now, temporary, 21,550. BMO at 22. BC Place Lower Bowl, 22,120 with a capacity of 54,500. And Energizer Park, which I still think is too small, 22,423. Lower Bowl at Soldier Field right now, currently 24,955 with a capacity of 61,500. And then you get to 25,000 and so on. So if we take Soldier Field as our baseline, you're gonna set yourself up to be smaller than the current configuration at Soldier Field. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18. So what you're doing is you're putting yourself middle of the pack when it comes to what you're building at 22,000. And it would be, once again, the smallest configuration since lower.com and Q2 both came into the world, and they were both delivered to us in 2021. So 4-year-old stadia, under 21,000. But you've already said 22,000 is where we're going to be. We're going to be the same size as BMO in Los Angeles. Okay. In Chicago, you want to set yourself up that way, then all right, you want to set yourself up to be like BMO if that's the environment that you think you're going to create, even though I still think you're selling yourself short, especially in an international environment, especially if you want to present yourself for, say, the Women's World Cup in 2031. Do you want to be the 22,000, or do you want to send folks over to Soldier Field? But right now, stadium, as you have it announced, right now, Chicago is middle of the pack. And it's lower capacity than what you currently have in Soldier Field in the lower bowl. Okay, so that's what you're setting yourself up for your bar right now. Soccer specific, permanent home to the Fire, true community asset, international soccer matches, rugby, concerts, festivals, live shows, fundraisers, blah, 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 blah. So, construction at the 78, as they're calling it, since it is the 78th neighborhood. Expected to begin by the end of 25, expected to open in 28. And then they ask, about, okay, so how can I secure my seats if I'm a current club ticket member, season ticket holder? Then you get into the whole dedicated parking and public transportation. How will this benefit the city of Chicago? And as the first MLS club to establish a charitable foundation, Fire have been committed to improving the quality of life in Chicago's surrounding community since 1998. Thousands of jobs during and after construction, generating millions of dollars in tax revenue for the city of Chicago on a site that has been undeveloped for over 100 years. And then you get to the whole suite luxury suite holder, all those kinds of things. So that is what the folks in that is what the Chicago Fire are trying to tell folks with the building of the new stadium that is planned in the 78. So that's what you're looking at when it comes to this new announcement this morning from Chicago Fire that they are building their own barn, and they're going to do it away from their current location at the spaceship. Their $650 million soccer stadium at the 78 in the South Loop, 62 acres. 62 acres is what they're planning. And so there is a how do we phrase? There are pictures of the particular piece of property, and it truly is underdeveloped. It currently has a baseball diamond on it. It is a 62 acre lot, and it has a baseball stadium on it. And so they plan to have, where it currently has like pickleball courts and things like that. There's an overhead shot of the stadium in and of itself, or the stadium land in and of itself. And so that's where they plan on busting this out. And so the team announces at Roosevelt Road in the River. And, wow. I hate pop-up windows, especially when they blow right in your ear. So that's what the Chicago Fire announced this morning. So Chicago Fire announcing that they want to build a facility that is smaller than what they currently could host in a lower bowl at the spaceship in downtown Chicago at Soldier Field. So that's the biggest breaking news out of the morning, is that Chicago, Joe Mansueto's had enough. He's like, you know what? I'm out. And it is South Loop in the 78. The 78 tract is what it's being looked at. But 22,000. That's what they want. 22,000. Soccer stadium already a permitted use at the 78 at Lincoln Yards, according to the Sun-Times. At Lincoln Yards, it would have required an amendment to the parcel's plan development documents, which could have resurrected a heated debate mirroring what happened under former Mayor Rahm Emanuel when Alderman Brian Hopkins opposed the soccer stadium floated by Lincoln Yards developer Sterling Bay, also complicating the Lincoln Yards site, the question about who owns the land, part of which was recently transferred to an Arkansas bank. 62 acres, one of the city's largest undeveloped parcels, eluded development for decades. Once owned by the Sun-Times, once owned by convicted political power broker Tony Rezko. It's been under consideration for Amazon's second world headquarters, a new corporate headquarters for United Airlines, for the home of J.P. Morgan Chase, and for a Chicago casino now planned for the River West neighborhood. Never got past the drawing board, neither did a plan to build the new White Sox park at the 78 and shoehorn in a domed stadium for the Bears on the same site. University of Illinois $300 million technology and research hub known as Discovery Partners Institute was once planned there, now envisioned for the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park on the side of the shuttered U.S. Steel Southworks plant. 78's losing streak set the stage for Related Midwest and Kurt Bailey to take advantage of Mansueto's offer to build his own stadium. And yeah, this is undeveloped, an undeveloped land, and it would be the anchor of that particular site. The Soldier Field lease for the Fire is set to expire this year. It requires the Mansueto and the Fire to pay a minimum of $145,000 for operating expenses for games with 15,000 attendees or fewer. Sliding fee scale rises to $162,500 for up to 20 and $258,000 for any crowd larger than 35. See Messi and Friends. Last year, average home attendance for the Fire was at Soldier Field was 21,327. This year's April 13th match against Messi and Friends attracted a crowd of 62,358, the highest home attendance mark in the history of the club. They're going to exercise options to extend the Soldier Field lease in hopes of beginning construction of the new stadium this fall or early next year, once again opening for the 28th season. Mansueto, and this is from the Sun-Times, Mansueto's willingness to bankroll stadium construction makes him an outlier among Chicago sports moguls who in the past have routinely looked for public handouts and property tax breaks. Still, a formidable city subsidy would be needed to cover major infrastructure costs. That's the long dormant site. A new road built by Chicago DOT already runs through that site, even though it's never been used. The 9-acre stadium site has mass transit nearby Roosevelt Station on the red, green, and orange lines, could reduce the need for stadium parking. River just west, also the possibility of water taxi service. Railroad tracks need to be relocated and a crumbling seawall that needs to be rebuilt. Water, sewer, power need to be installed. Parking garages, surface lots need to be built. So does the last leg of the Riverwalk between Lake Street and Ida B. Wells. It had an initial price tag of $140 million. Related Midwest hopes to draw from the $450 million tax increment financing district approved 7 years ago to bankroll the infrastructure needed to prepare the site for development. Still working on what the final infrastructure plan will look like and how large a TIF subsidy the mayor and the city council will be asked to authorize amid the rising cost of construction materials tied to tariffs. Public improvements needed to unlock the potential of the site. 78 could easily sit vacant, just as it did when Resco owned it. Resco's partner in the South Loop land deal was an Iraqi-British billionaire living in London who was once convicted by a French court of fraud in an oil scandal. He was fined and sentenced to prison for 15 months, though the sentence was suspended, never did any time. Senior mayoral advisor Jason Lee refused to say what level of city subsidy the mayor was willing to seek on Related Midwest's behalf. And so you have folks that wanted to lure both the Sox and the Bears to that space, and now it's the Fire. Without the stadium catalyst, there is acknowledgement that the 78 was likely to lay fallow for decades. Sounds like an 80s rock band, or 90s. Fallow for decades. And so identified very early, the only way for this to work was with a significant anchor, which is why we've had this, I would say, quixotic pursuit of all of these other projects over the last 8 years. So it's a piece of land that's sitting there. You got to relocate some things, including some train tracks. You've got to work on some infrastructure, and you've got to make sure that the land is going to be stable. But right now, that's what it's looking like for Chicago and the Fire. And the Fire has announced updates to the remaining home schedule. Additional venue change for the club's home match on Saturday, August 9th versus LAFC, along with dates for Hispanic Heritage Night and Fan Appreciation Night. Fire's previously announced Harry Potter Night has been rescheduled for Saturday, September 13th. Due to a conflict at Soldier Field with the Bears' preseason schedule, the Saturday, August 9th match will be held at SeatGeek in Bridgeview. Per the lease agreement with Soldier Field, the Fire are unable to host matches within 5 days of a Bears home game. Bears are scheduled to play a preseason game on Sunday, August 10th. Relocated match against LAFC is in addition to the two previously announced, August 16th versus City and September 6th versus the Revs, which will also be played at SeatGeek due to conflicts at Soldier Field. All ticket sales for the matches, LAFC, City, and New England have been paused and will officially go back on sale on the 20th, so 17 days from now. So 3 dates have been shifted to Bridgeview. 3 have been shifted to Bridgeview. And you have the announcement today that the Chicago Fire want to build their own barn. And they have apparently come up with a site to do it. And so that's what you're looking at this morning involving Chicago Fire and the breaking news. And I guess that will suffice as opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are hanging out this morning, however you are hanging out with us this morning. Hit that QR code, start your day out with everything going on in the world of your wake up. You hit that QR code right there. Go into Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You can buy out the store, which we would recommend that you do. Because once you do, you can use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And so other things going on this morning, once again, remember, you can go to where is it you can go? You go to our website, soccerdownhere.net. You can go and get all your shopping done. You can get all of the new SDH gear that is there. You can also get retrified gear that Jason has drawn up from the Ruckus and from the attack, and you can get re-retrofied with all of the gear that Jason likes to draw up occasionally to represent and remember the soccer past here in the city of Atlanta. You can go to the SDH website, sdh.soccerdownhere.net, and you can get all the retro gear that Jason has designed, in addition to all of the SDH gear that is there now, where you get that logo that's all around me. You can get the logo everywhere. Don't forget, you can also go to Olive in York and get the first ever jersey that we have. Kaiser Permanente on the front, Beyond Goals Mentoring on one sleeve, Soccer for Good on the other sleeve. Helps out our Soccer for Good causes here in 2025. And you can also get it personalized. You can go from one side to the other. You can go with the Navy jersey. You can either go with a white letters and numerals in your personalization, or go with the double blue, the lighter blue, the Carolina blue, Columbia blue, whatever you want to call it. And please consult Alex and Abby if you are interested in figuring out what kind of personalization is better for you. Relationship that we have with Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. What you can do there is get the Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta gear, either on red or in black. And it is the gold embossed phrasing on the front. SDH Network logo on one cuff, Grady Baby logo on the other cuff. And once again, that also helps out our Soccer for Good campaigns here in 2025 as well. And you can go and help out the Marshall Islands Project. And it appears that Ozark United might be stepping up to be the fourth team in the Outrigger Challenge Cup in the middle of August in Springdale, Arkansas, with our friends at the Marshall Islands. And you can get all your Marshall Islands gear from them. Everything comes from England except the scarves, which Maddie Cruz was modeling on the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation's store website. That comes from me on the other side of this door. Like I said, I've got about 10. And if you helped out with the Kickstarter campaign, if you went to a certain level, you got a scarf as a part of the deal. And so, like I said, that's why I've got about 10 and looking to reorder those soon. So if you want anything Marshall Islands, you go to Marshall Islands website, but that ships from England. You want a scarf, ships from me. So there you go, other side of this door. And so you've got that. You can go to our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccerdownhere, and you can continue to get your true degenerate focus coming and watching all the game from all around the planet. And you can do it. St. Nuestro Tele, CDO, CDO2, For the Fans, Gold TV with our buddy Nino Torres, and everything that is attached to all of those networks. Liga 1 Max Pro, all the BNs. You can watch Libertadores, Sudamericana, everything from AFCON and overseas. Central America has been added recently with Canal 4 and Tigo Sports going through BN. So you can watch all of that at Fanatis at fntz.co/soccerdownhere. And that will help you out as well. Continue all of your viewing habits and all of the streaming services that you have to watch the beautiful game in and around the planet. So let me see. Do I have everything? It is soccerdownhere.net, Grady Baby Co., Olive in York. Become a Fanatico. What do you do for $10 a year? What you can do for $10 a year is you can become a true Fanatico in every sense of the word. And you can, with said Fanatico-ness, you can go to our Chant app and be a part of everything there and get all the discounts from a lot of different places here in the upper half of the state, plus a resort in Costa Rica. And if you remember our conversation yesterday where we wanted to welcome Europe to Costa Rica as a part of the 2031 Women's World Cup, then could you imagine, say, England and Germany playing in the Monsters cage at Saprissa? Group.chant.fan/soccerdownhere/join. $10. It's $10. Group.chant.fan/soccerdownhere. Am I spelling it correctly? /join. Like I said, the need help button is blocking me over at the end. I think I actually did. So here we go. Let me see if I get it. Group.chant.fan/soccerdownhere/join. Oh my God, I actually spelled it correctly. I can't believe it. So go there, and what you can do is you can Be a Fanatico, $10 a year. What do you do for $10? You can help out our Soccer for Good campaign here in 2025 and beyond, but you can help out there at group.chant.fan/soccerdownhere/join. Really cool thing that kind of popped into the timeline very, very early this morning. And it was looking at qualifiers for the U.S. Open Cup. And it was really cool to see from our friends at opencup.us that folks are making their way into the Open Cup in the ways that they can. And so you go to Open Cup, you go to the opencup.us, and because of a USASA qualifier, it was a lower division team that if I could spell, that made it in. And so very, very cool stuff there from our friends at the Open Cup to find out about folks that made their way through. The Cup.us let us know that brute force in the state of Georgia on winning the Georgia Adult Men's State Cup, qualifying for USASA Region 3's Amateur Cup June 13th through 15th. The winning of that on the 13th and the 15th plays for the National Amateur Cup and a U.S. Open Cup spot. So Brute Force FC one win closer, or one tournament win closer after winning the Georgia State Cup. So Brute Force FC over Peachtree FC. Brute Force FC one match closer to getting into the tournament, the big Open Cup tournament. So very, very cool stuff there. Okay, so here's the rundown of the morning. There's news that came out of Seattle on the weekend. For those of you that might have watched Sunday Night Soccer, you saw some players and some Seattle Sounders folks wearing T-shirts having to do with the the Club World Cup. We'll get into that. We have some sound that we've got to load into the system from our friends at Pulso Sports, and it has to do with Stefan Fry and Christian Roldan. And that happened after the match, and they were asked to explain why the team was wearing Club World Cup money grab T-shirts. So we have that sound to play coming up in a little bit. Also, we have a response to the MLSPA then came out with a statement backing what the players did in Seattle. That statement didn't go over well with a couple of former players in Major League Soccer. One of them that you know from his time in Atlanta. Two players in general, very, very vocal against the MLSPA in general. So two players coming out against what the MLSPA did, as the MLSPA came out with a statement supporting what the Seattle players did. Two former players in Major League Soccer came out and basically went after the MLSPA. So we'll roll through all of that. It's about 2 minutes of tape with Stefan Fry and Christian Roldan after the match, explaining why they did what they did. Then we'll let you know what the MLSPA said. Then we'll let you know what the responses were from players no longer active, but still active in the sense of supporting their own. And so we'll get into that as well in hour number one. Hour number two, we kind of drift over into what's going on overseas. It's a big day for Crystal Palace, and really it's a big day for Eagle Football Holdings, because it looks like they have to go in front of UEFA and sit there and say don't penalize either Lyon or Crystal Palace from both teams making European football next year. And our owner owns 43% of one and is a majority owner of another. So we'll go through the very, very busy day that John Texter hopes not to have. He hopes to make it a very, very quick conversation involving Crystal Palace and UEFA. Looks like with the Premier League league meetings, the Premier League league meetings, Tuesday and Wednesday, you're going to have some things that might be laid out when it comes to all of the PSR that's attached to folks, and Chelsea might be under the microscope again, and they may have to change the rules involving PSR and what can be sold and how it can be sold and to whom and all that. So you got to keep an eye on that. There's transfer news, and it's just as much as who isn't going anywhere as who may. And it involves Manchester United. That piece of furniture that you heard crash was probably our Drew Dickinson. So you have news involving players that aren't going anywhere, players that they still want to bring in, that you're going to have to spend money to bring in. But you kind of need to bring in money perhaps to spend money, but apparently you don't have the fear of doing that at the moment. So there's that analysis that's out there this morning. A former U.S. soccer legend is taking a coaching gig, and it is not in the United States. It was announced yesterday, so we'll get into that. And then there's a new head coach in the USL Championship taking over for a team that has been struggling out of the gate, and all the things. So that's where we are this morning. And whatever's on your mind, we welcome what's on your mind as we sit here and we roll through everything here on SDH AM. So John Nelson here with you. And we are going to be here until, 11:05-ish or so. Joining us at 10:30, Gabriel Schray. And it's a very, very busy time up in Chattanooga. And Gabe has a match tonight in the WPSL with Chattanooga FC and with Decatur FC. He's going to be walking us through the season so far with CFC on the women's side in the WPSL and just how tough the division is in the Southeast. Then we'll get into what's going on the men's side in MLS Next Pro, Chattanooga toward the top of the standings in the East again. And then he spent some time in USL League One so far this season, so he's been calling matches there. And so it'll be a conversation about the WPSL and a big match tonight at Fort Finley. It'll be up about what's going on with Chattanooga FC, and it'll be about what's going on in USL League One, and that'll wrap us up today. Later today, if I'm checking my email correctly, and it'll be okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to catch up with Steve Livingston later today down at Sporting Jacks, and that will air tomorrow. But we're going to catch up with him and find out the latest, because you've got a boatload of things going on at Sporting Jacks right now on a lot of different clubs. And you're going to be trying to figure out what's going on in USLW, in League Two. You've trotted out your jersey. You're trying to get everything ready for championship. So there's a lot of stuff going on. We're going to catch up with Steve Livingston later today. That'll air tomorrow on the morning show in hour number 2. So we're going to catch up with Steve there and find out what's going on in the world of Sporting Jacks, and that'll be in tomorrow's show. Also, just to let you know, keep an eye out for something happening in Macon. There's a press conference this afternoon, and it's pretty big. So keep an eye out for that. Obviously, I think Jason's going to be down in Macon for that press conference. He'll have reports on social media as to what actually is going to be what's going to be laid out by the Macon City and Bibb County folks. But no, it's a pretty big announcement at 2:15 this afternoon, and so keep an eye out on the SDH socials for all of that as well. So it'll be a very, very busy day across the board. Tomorrow, once again, we mentioned what's going on with Sporting Jacks. You'll hear about what's going on there. Tyler Pilgrim, Scarves and Spikes will be joining us. Dylan Butler hopefully will be joining us after he gets through with lacrosse in the Northeast. We'll see where Dylan is, and we'll recap everything going on in Dylan's world. Then the Power Hour is set to go on Thursday with Nino and Nico, and we'll find out about transfers that are happening from Portugal. Dario Asugo was one of the names that we had on the list, and it looks like he is going to be leaving Portugal and heading to the Premier League. Niga Moreno will discuss what happened in Seattle. Like I said, we'll play that sound. We have that sound, and we'll see if we can play Stefan Fry and Christian Roldan for you later on in the show. And then also on Friday, it is going to be the review, because it's a handful of matches in Major League Soccer plus some friendlies this weekend. We'll get into that on Friday in the last half hour, and we'll see if we can catch up with our friends at Beyond Goals and from the league and find out what's going on in all of their minds as we go. Reminder, Decatur FC, Drew and I will be at Decatur for that matchup Friday night at 6 on the WPSL website. So Decatur in the knockdown drag-out division, they're going to be having all of their fun that is going to be laid out. And it's been a tough time, and I think that this matchup that we're going to talk about tonight with Gabriel Schray coming up in a little less than an hour, it's going to be David. No, the Whoopee are not returning. The Whoopee are not returning. But they've got the Mayhem. I think it's the Mayhem that is going to be everything that's. Let me see. Is it the Mayhem? I see, because you had the Mayhem, you had the Tracks, and you had and obviously you had the Whoopee. Who is it that's there now? I think don't quote me, but I think it is. Yeah, it's the Mayhem. The Macon Mayhem are there currently. So that's what and the Pensacola Ice Flyers have named a new head coach. Okay, so yeah, it's the Mayhem currently that play, and the crowds apparently are pretty big there at the Macon Coliseum and the Macon Centerplex. So you got, let's see, so who are the teams? Okay, so the Knoxville Ice Bears are back, Quad Cities, Evansville, Macon, the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs. That's one of the best nicknames out there. The Fayetteville Marksmen, the Pensacola Ice Flyers, the Huntsville Havoc, and the Peoria Rivermen. But yes, it is the Mayhem currently that are playing at the Macon Coliseum. But no, what is going on today in Macon is soccer-based. It is not hockey-based. But it is at 2:15, and obviously, like I said, Jason will be down there for it, and keep an eye on our social media for everything that is going to be going on involving Middle Georgia coming up pretty soon. So that's where that is. Fabrizio Romano reporting. And like I said, I'm going to be kind of drifting in and out of whether it's MLS or international stuff this morning because of the windows being open. Fabrizio Romano, Mark Flecken joining Bayer Leverkusen as the new keeper on a €10 million deal. Chalman Kelleher is going to replace him at Brentford. Al Hilal executives are currently in Paris holding meetings today on 3 topics, according to our buddy Ben Jacobs. Victor Osimhen, a key priority to land ahead of the Club World Cup. Theo Hernandez, who still needs convincing, but is another top target. And Alexander Mitrovic, who could leave Al Hilal, as revealed yesterday. Hilal also going to hold further talks over other midfielders, although not all like-for-like Bruno Fernandes replacements. Atalanta's Ederson, Inter's Nicolo Barella, and Aston Villa's Yuri Tielemans, 3 names currently under discussion. So that is where you're checking with all of those names. So that kind of puts that news into the bag because it was reported this morning that Bruno Fernandes told Al Hilal no. So that's the next piece of news that was attached to that. Chelsea is going to make an opportunistic, and this is from our buddy Ben Jacobs, an opportunistic approach to Mikey Magnan, despite being content with their internal keeper options, viewed as too good not to explore, given Magnan's experience, contractual situation, and Milan's lack of European football. Nico Williams has begun initial talks to renew his Athletic Bilbao contract. Parties discussing a salary pushing €10 million. Release clause could increase should a deal be agreed, not yet a guarantee. Arsenal and Chelsea see value in Williams' current €58 million clause. Remains on their radar, but the overall cost of the transfer, wage, and agent fees make it expensive. Bilbao hoping they can tie Williams down before any other offers arrive. Let's see. So we mentioned that Jadon Sancho leaving Chelsea at the end of his loan after failing to agree to terms that would have seen an obligation of up to £25 million. Chelsea's going to pay the £5 million penalty, and Sancho is going to return to Old Trafford. Willingness on Chelsea's end, according to Jacobs, to keep Sancho, but only if he agreed to terms within the club's incentive-driven wage structure. With no loan fee paid, $5 million, essentially Manchester United's contribution to his wages with a small penalty fee on top of it. Chelsea working on a right-footed left winger. Jamie Gittins, Alejandro Garnacho. Nico Williams remains appreciated, but too costly to pull off. Hugo Ekitike not moving as fast as some German media reports suggest. Chelsea have Ekitike as one of several options, looking at another striker after Liam Delap, but nothing is that advanced, and Frankfurt's €100 million asking price is an issue. Jadon Sanchez is not going to play in the Club World Cup for Chelsea because he has options elsewhere given June to explore clubs. Leaves Chelsea on good terms with appreciation for his contribution and goal in the Conference League final. Job Bellingham wants to join Dortmund this summer. German club now in talks with Sunderland to try and finalize the deal, and exit's looking likely despite Sunderland's promotion to the Prem. Sunderland won around £25 million. Bruno Fernandes' rejection of Al Hilal does not have any bearing on an expected bid for Brentford's Brian Mbeumo. This is what we were getting into. So Bruno Fernandes says no. An intrepid context. You're gonna get reported. Why you wanna do that? You should just go ahead and tell all of your other bot buddies that this is not going to be a successful venture. intrepid context, blah, 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 blah. It's a bot. It's a bot. And then, therefore, it is a viewer solicitation. If I could spell solicitation, bot. And there's my 23 characters. There we go. Report submitted. There it is. Okay, cool. All right. So, intrepid context has now officially been reported. Al Hilal took talks to an advanced stage before Fernandes turned the offer down. Manchester United never had an approach or bid, and their early window business is entirely independent of Fernandes. Naturally, several outgoings will still prove important across the summer due to multiple and other priority positions to strengthen in. So, Lyon want 30 million euro plus for Ryan Cherki as talks continue with Manchester City. Cherki remains keen on the move if a club-to-club agreement can be found. Lyon sticking to their asking price to date. No cut price deal even with Cherki into the final year of his deal. And Wolves have yet to receive a formal bid from Manchester City on Ryan Aït-Nouri. Deal could progress quickly now with Manchester City wanting to make progress with all of it. Productive meetings took place last week in Riyadh. Hilal felt the terms of an agreement were close. Fernandes made it clear he wanted time to discuss the move with his family. Further talks also took place with Manchester United. Ruben Amorim's public comments that he wanted Bruno to stay also reiterated privately to Manchester United's captain. Manchester United were always waiting for a bid, but it was never going to arrive unless Fernandes first said yes. As a result, United's perspective is no formal negotiation ever took place, even though they were aware Hilal were prepared to pay in excess of 100 million euro and potentially close to 120. Hilal president Fahad bin Nafel believed Fernandes was sold on the football project, but no final answer was given last week in Riyadh, given a deadline of Friday, meaning 3 days from now, at the latest, to communicate his decision. After talks this weekend with his family, decided to turn the offer down. So that is the probably the bigger piece of news this morning. Mbeumo giving priority to Manchester United, according to David Ornstein. Formal bid expected to follow. Brentford seeking around 50 million pounds. As reported, European football next season is not a deal breaker. Mbeumo was sold on the Manchester United project following talks in May. So there's that. So all of those things, and like I said, I think that crash of the furniture that you heard was our buddy Drew Dickinson and all of this. So that's your rundown of all of the news of the morning involving on the field stuff. The other element in all of this has to do with Crystal Palace. And Crystal Palace is really trying to make sure that they can have everything going with European football. And I know that you can look at what Mike Keegan has at the Daily Mail, and you can also look at another couple of writers when it comes to Crystal Palace sitting there saying, well, we want to do this, we want to do this, and we want to do this. More than anything, they want to stay in European football. That they really, truly want to stay in European football. And they want Lyon to stay in European football in addition to all of that. So it is a very, very busy time. And I imagine that you're going probably from one boardroom to the next to sit there and say, well, we really would like to stay. We'd like to stay. And the way that this is going to get laid out is if you sit there and you're going to look at percentages of ownership. You're looking at percentages of ownership, and I think that you're going to try and figure out how to parse the depth of just how much Eagle Football Holdings has involving. Now, let me see if I can find. I think it was Ornstein who had Rich. Oh, see now, Rich. 2 union friendlies in 3 days. Auckland City and Atlas. We like that. We like Auckland City. We really do. I think we kind of have. We might have. I'm not going to say fallen in love with, but we're digging them. We really are digging them. and it's going to be it's going to be fun to see Auckland City and figure out where they're going to fit in this whole Club World Cup thing. Now, Sam Joseph and Matt Woosnam came out this morning at The Athletic. Crystal Palace set to argue their case to UEFA to allow the club to compete in Europa League next year. Participation is in jeopardy due to the governing body's rules on multi-club ownership. 4 general partners, John Textor, Steve Parrish, Josh Harris, David Blitzer, are supposed to meet UEFA reps today. Then it should be going on pretty much at any moment. Because it says, the copy from our friends at The Athletic says it's the Tuesday afternoon. So if we assume that it is local time, you're probably right in the wheelhouse of this meeting happening right now. Discussing the issue that stems from Eagle Football owning a stake in Lyon, who also qualified for the competition. UEFA's deadline to address any multi-club issues was March 1. That's kind of hard considering that if Crystal Palace was still chasing after an FA Cup, they couldn't quite give a decision to UEFA by March 1st. Teams that win the FA Cup gain automatic entry to Europa League if they haven't already qualified for Champions League. Once again, Eze's goal beats Manchester City. Palace wins FA Cup. UEFA rules forbid individuals from being involved with multiple clubs in the same competition. Textor is the controlling owner of Eagle Football. 88% stake in Lyon, 43% stake in Palace. Lyon finished 6th in Ligue 1, which earned them a spot in Conference League. However, PSG won the Coupe de France, having already qualified for Champions League by winning Ligue 1, meaning that Lyon were given a Europa League slot. So, here's Europa League rules. No club participating in the UEFA club competition may either directly or indirectly hold or deal in the securities or shares of any other club participating in a UEFA club competition, be involved in any capacity whatsoever in the management, administration, and or sporting performance of any other club participating in a UEFA club competition, or have any power whatsoever in the management, administration, and or sporting performance of any other club participating in a UEFA club competition. It goes for like another 3 or 4 paragraphs. Palace's general partners each hold an equal 25% share of the voting rights. After a relaxation of UEFA's rules last year, it appeared that entry into the Conference League would be an option if Palace are denied access into Europa. However, Blitzer's Global Football Holdings owns a stake in Brøndby, who also qualified for the competition. In the event that Palace are DQ'd, Forest could be promoted to the Europa League after finishing 7th and qualifying. Then that means that Brighton would enter in the Conference League. Palace's position is under threat rather than Lyon's, as UEFA state that the club ranked highest in the domestic championship may be given entry to the competition. Lyon's 6th place finish gives them priority over Palace, who finished 12th. So, plead your case. Crystal Palace, plead your case. You got that. So that's oh boy. Yeah, so yes, and Rich, like I said, I think we've kind of fallen in love with chasing after Auckland City. We really, really are going to be enjoying that one as well. So that'll be fun. Atletico Madrid interested in signing Johnny Cardoso from Real Betis. Tottenham have a first refusal option, which comes active this summer as part of the sale of Lo Celso. Cardoso joined from Internacional, key player in Betis' run to Conference League, where they lost to Chelsea. Borussia Dortmund keen to extend Charny Chukwuemeka's loan to cover the duration of the Club World Cup. The agreement ends with Chelsea June 30, midway through the competition. Negotiations are taking place on a new agreement that would see him remain with Dortmund. And Everton striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin's future is in doubt. His contract is among those expiring at the end of June. Calvert-Lewin scored 3 goals in 26 appearances last season. No, and Rich, I would imagine that as a Sixers fan, there's no love for Josh Harris ownership. I would imagine not. Morning, Lokeville. Good to see you. But yes, as a Sixers fan, I would imagine that there is no love for Josh Harris ownership. So that's the rundown of everything in Europe, I think. Benny Feilhaber's the new head coach for Oakland Roots, by the way. So with Oakland stumbling out of the gate in USL Championship, keep a listen out for our friends at the USL show and our buddy Kaylor Hodges as they address that and everything else that's going on in there. Did you see that there are a couple of dudes who are now being added to the staff at the Canadian men's national team? So Michael Bradley and David Edgar are joining Jesse Marsh's coaching staff as guests. Guests. How does that work? I want you to be my guest. I feel like Jerry Orbach and Angela Lansbury probably should break out in song at this point. Michael Bradley is joining the coaching staff for the training camp ahead of friendlies against Ukraine and Ivory Coast in Halifax. David Edgar, formerly an assistant manager with Forge, has also joined the staff. Bradley and Edgar will only serve on Canada's staff for this international window and not into the Gold Cup, which begins later this month, as the summer of soccer continues. Both Bradley and Edgar took part in their first sessions under Jesse Marsh on Monday. Marsh is committed to bringing Canadian coaches on his staff. Recently had former Canadian internationals Jason Benton, Paul Stalteri join the staff for international windows. For Bradley, homecoming of sorts, according to Clokey, obviously with his time with Toronto FC. Bradley went into coaching, served as an assistant coach under his dad at Staubach. And then, according to Clokey, Bradley's experience could benefit a Canada side looking to take the next step after a disappointing showing at the World Cup, treating the opportunity as a learning experience. Well, you're a guest. Treating the opportunity as a learning experience left the door open for Bradley to take part in Canada training sessions as the schedule allows. Bradley's recently spent time observing training sessions across Europe. Quoting Jesse Marsh, the main reason is for him to see what we do and learn from it, but the side effect is he's been a big player and done big things. Been at World Cup. The guys all know who he is. Good way of just connecting with guys and sharing experience as a high-level football thinker excited about starting his coaching career. Bob Bradley had a vital hand in turning Marsh into the coach he is today. Coached Marsh at Princeton and with Fire and Chivas. Marsh, in turn, coached as an assistant on Bradley's staff with the U.S. at the 2010 World Cup, and would later say, Bob Bradley's, quote, the reason I'm a coach. Marsh also brought Nicolas Gagnon, the team's new set-piece coach, in. It's going to stay with Canada beyond the international window. Training in Halifax for the first time in program history until June 5, as they continue their preps for the Gold Cup in Toronto. Saturday's friendly versus Ukraine, next Tuesday versus Ivory Coast. They're in Group B. Honduras, El Salvador, Curacao, going in search of their first international trophy since winning in 2000. So Michael Bradley, guest coach with the Canadian men's national team in Halifax. You have this vision of Michael Bradley, just like ripping up a jersey or something, trying to do something to fire everybody up. David, all the rules are to allow clubs. Going back to the discussion about Crystal Palace, I assume all these rules are not to allow clubs to use a minor league baseball in quotation marks style development process to allow them to hold on to talent below market and enrich themselves through international club competitions. And also, I would imagine you don't want to stack your rosters. Like if somebody gets off to a bad start in a club if somebody gets bumped out early. Let's say Crystal Palace is in Europa League and they're like a one and done. Group stage, they get blown out. What's to prevent them from, say, tanking in quotation marks and then sit there and go, well, Eberici Eze, maybe he should go to Lyon for a bit. Something like that. If one of the teams exits early, then you look at, well, how can we help out our brother? One of those kinds of things. You don't want to stack the deck, and you don't want to sit there and shift one way or the other when it comes to what you're thinking for the success of one. If one fails, what do you do to help the success of the other? which is all under the same umbrella. That I think is part of it too. Somebody tanks to contribute to the overall success. You're sliding players from one way to the other. That's what I'm thinking. As a part of it too. Rich, of course, there's a small bit of if you like soccer so much as a team. And Chester, you could have bought. Well, yeah. I mean, I think, Rich, I think it's probably more than just a small bit, as my hair is flying out all over the place. I think that there's yes, and that is absolutely true, Rich. You don't want collusion with both teams making the finals and then trying to pick one over the other. Well, we kind of like this one, and we like this one, we want this one to win, and so you stack and you slide and, all those kinds of things. But yes, collusion is a part of it. And then David, pick your poison, team owners, either go it alone or don't get artificially enriched. But yes, the collusion, it is collusion either in the positive or in the negative. Collusion in the sense of let's help out our brother if one of us gets bounced. Or, hey, if we're real successful, then we both make it to the end and we'll see what happens. No, that's UEFA's like pick one. And it's got to be the one that finished the highest. And so Crystal Palace has to plead their case. My guess is Crystal Palace is going to sit there and go, well, first off, at March 1st, we didn't know we were going to make it to the FA Cup. And going forward, the fact that we were successful, don't hold it against us. And Eagle, John Texter, let's see if we can figure this out. What do you think they're saying? So everybody walks into a room, soundproofed, of course. It's a skiff that's got that's got the glass walls and no one can hear except when somebody raises their voice and they stomp their feet and yell loudly. And then it sounds like that. So all of the Eagle guys are in a room with UEFA. You think Sefrin's in the room? I don't think he is. Sefrin probably has said, no, you guys go handle it. I think you're okay. So they all wander into this room, and the four even shareholders for Crystal Palace are sitting there saying, well, I've got 25, and he's got 25, and he's got 25, and he's got 25. Whereas Texter walks into the room, and he's like, nah, man, I'm focused on Lyon. I've got like 80-something% in that and Botafogo and all these other things. I'm not focused on that. But it says here, but no, I'm not focused on that. That's not where, you probably have to come up with all kinds of financial documents and sit there. But Mr. Texter, it says that you own 88% of, blah, blah, blah. Oh, but let's not get confused with, let's not look at that. Let's not look at that. Texter, Parrish, Harrison, Blitzer. Sounds very Christmassy. So Texter is the controlling owner of Eagle Football. 88% stake in Lyon. 43% stake in Palace. The other guys have 19% in Palace to make the 57. So Parrish, Harrison, Blitzer, all 19%ers, I guess, or something akin. If you evened out the 57%, it's 19% for each. So what UEFA will say is literally, bruh, you own 88% of Lyon and not quite 50% in Crystal Palace. But I didn't know they were going to be this successful. And we didn't know that they were going to win the FA Cup over Manchester City. And you see what Manchester City is with all the interest that they have across the board. Oh, but they're different. How are they different? But they're just different. So Texter, controlling owner of Eagle Football, 88% stake in Lyon. So you can pretty much guess where his allegiance is going to be. 43% stake in Crystal Palace. Oh, but that doesn't mean that the other three guys can't sit there and say that they own 57%. That's going to get bogged down into a numbers argument. And John Texter will go, hey, look, I've got 88% in Lyon. That's where I am. Yes, I own 43%, but it's not 50. It's not 50.1% of Crystal Palace. I don't own a majority of that. So therefore, the other three guys can vote above me and vote me out in situations. They can outvote me. I imagine that is where this is going. And then they'll point to other multi-club models and go, but. I mean, that's what I would imagine is what it's going to look like. So that's where they're going to be. So Lyon's in Europa. Crystal Palace, they're in the balance right now. And for what this would mean for Crystal Palace, and this is the rub in all of this, where Lyon is in Europa because of the Conference League promotion, because of PSG. What this means for Crystal Palace, winning FA Cup, to have them play in Europe, you want them to be in the highest profile competition they can be in, period. So it is going to get bogged down into the ownership numbers. And it's going to get bogged down into the idea of, but I don't own that much. But I don't own that much. I don't. You know, one of those. That's what it's gonna. That's what it's gonna come down to. So I have that. That to me is where the argument is going to go. All right. So once again, coming up bottom of the hour in about 20 minutes, Gabe Schray is going to join us. Very, very busy time in Chattanooga for Chattanooga FC, for CFC's women, especially tonight. And we'll go through a little bit of League One with him, too, as he calls those matchups for you on how you consume your USL platforms. I don't know if you saw this when it was Sunday Night Soccer on Apple, and apparently now, and the boss found this out, that you can watch if you have cable television in this particular part of the planet, that you can watch Sunday Night Soccer through your cable, but you don't have as many options as you do when it comes to going through Apple TV, local radio, and all that kind of stuff. You have the Sunday Night Soccer broadcast, but you have that crew, and that's it. You don't have an option to listen to local. Seattle Sounders players went out onto the pitch at Lumen for their matchup against Minnesota, wearing T-shirts demanding better pay from FIFA for their participation in the upcoming Club World Cup. During pregame warm-ups and player walkouts, they had the phrase "Club World Cash Grab" with and it's Mr. Monopoly who is on the front of it as well. I don't know if whoever owns Monopoly, is it Milton Bradley, might get a little hot about that. He was wearing a hat with MLS on it and FIFA dollars on the money pouch. The back read "Fair Share Now." And so then once the fans saw the backside of the T-shirts, they started chanting "Fair Share Now." Protest was to call attention. This is from Jada Evans at the Seattle Times. Protest was to call attention to owners and MLS's unwillingness to have a formal negotiation to decide how money for the upcoming FIFA Men's Club World Cup will be distributed. Seattle opens the tournament against Botafogo. Here we go with Eagle Football Holdings again. June 15th at Lumen. Announced back in March, $1 billion prize pot, $525 million for the 32 teams participating on, and $475 million based on performance. Basically, you walk in the door, like our friends at LAFC did, they get $9.55 million. So it is LAFC, Seattle, and Messi and friends, the only three in the Club World Cup field. And once again, remember that there was the 31 that qualify, plus the wild card entry that was announced on the field in Miami, worst kept secret known to mankind, Gianni Infantino in town to discuss Club World Cup. Hey, guess who's Team 32? It's Messi and friends. And we're going to have our first game here. And the city of Miami was like, what? And so that's where you were. Each club, as a part of the CONCACAF team element of it all, those three, you walk in the door, you get $9.55 million. FIFA's loan stipulation, according to Evans, is a portion must go to players to help compensate for the increased workload. According to the MLSPA, leagues and owners, stating they're bound by the CBA agreement ratified in 2021 that caps payments to players at $1 million for, quote, performance and or participation in a compulsory tournament or non-compulsory tournament, end quote. Based on the clause, individual rosters would receive $1 million apiece, be distributed however the locker rooms want. Figures basically a 90-10 split, according to Evans, which players are united in stating doesn't align with FIFA's intentions. So the release statement from FIFA in part, from MLSPA in part. For months, the players have privately and respectfully invited the league to discuss bonus terms, yet MLS has failed to bring forward a reasonable proposal. Instead of recognizing the players who brought MLS to the global stage, the league, which routinely asks the PA to deviate from the CBA, is clinging to an out-of-date CBA provision and ignoring long-standing international standards on what players typically receive from FIFA prize money in global competitions. It is the players who make the game possible. It is the players who are lifting MLS up on the global stage. They expect to be treated fairly and with respect, end quote. Typically, the Sounders locker room pools all bonuses and divides it among themselves at the end of the season. If CWC participation payday were the team's only winnings this year, the cut would be about $35,700 a player. Sounders ownership would pocket $8 million to use as they want, but there are talks MLS could also claim a portion of the funds from the three clubs, according to multiple sources, telling Evans. Adrian Hanauer declined to comment about the protest. Disparity would grow if any of the MLS teams were successful in the tournament. Teams were awarded $2 million for a win and $1 million for a draw. Advanced to the knockouts, clubs get another $7.5 million. Quarterfinal winners receive an additional $13.125 million, 13 and an eighth, obviously. And then the payout for the semis is $21 million. FIFA tops off the Club World Cup winner with $40 million and $30 million for the runner-up. If that team were Seattle, it would be a minimum haul of $94.175 million, and the players would still, according to Evans, only get $1 million total to share under the CBA clause. Real Madrid, which has won 5 CWCs, claim they'll grant their players $1 million each if they win, or a combined 20% of the approximate $125 million the club would earn for lifting the trophy. Minnesota did not wear the shirts, but the MLSPA stated it is united in its frustration with league owners. The issue cuts deeper for the Sounders. They made history by becoming the first MLS club to win the modern version of the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza back in 22 to qualify for the former version of the Club World Cup. Seattle defeated Pumas 5-2 on aggregate. 68,741 attended the second leg match at Lumen. The club earned $500,000 split with the players under the same CBA clause. That prize pool has since increased to $5 million for the winner, and that went to Cruz Azul. Players expected to receive at least $2 million. Christian Roldan. We'll get into this statement. The quick Q&A. It was an impromptu 20-minute gathering of Stefan Fry, Christian Roldan, other Seattle players, and our friends at Pulso Sports have the full exchange. We're going to play the first 2 minutes. Reality is the league has changed. We're seeing that in Leagues Cup. We're seeing that in Champions Cup. The incentives to play in those tournaments are worthwhile. They've made exceptions for those two tournaments. This tournament's going to be played every 4 years. The league needs to catch up, end quote. The CWC windfall total is historic because the winner will play 7 matches. PSG, which Seattle will face in the group stage, pocketed $155 million approximately for winning Champions League, but played 17. So there you go. So that is the statements that were made after the match. Jada Evans from the Seattle Times. Here is the first 2 minutes of the gathering that was available for the Seattle Sounders players and the assembled media after the match with Minnesota, once again, courtesy of our friends at Pulso Sports.
Obviously, our Club World Cup tournament is less than about 2 weeks away. We have no idea what's going on in terms of the distribution of funds for a tournament of this size. We've made numerous attempts to try to get to the table and actually talk and figure things out. It's a shame that we're 2 weeks away and we have absolutely no clue. Like I said, we've tried to. We've even put a letter together. All the players that are involved on multiple teams signed it in private, trying to force them or encourage them to try to talk to us so we can figure things out, because we wanted to put this to bed a long time ago so we can focus on things. And unfortunately that hasn't happened yet. And like I said, we're less than over 2 weeks away from this. We felt it was important that we somehow get a message out that hopefully we can finally talk and figure things out.
Ryan had made a comment that while he understands both sides, it was a situation where you needed to back it up as far as the match goes and the play goes. Do you kind of agree with that as far as, taking into account making the protest and then not getting the win today?
Yeah, we would have loved to win, right? To kind of send that statement off in the right direction. Obviously bummed about the game, but the reality is that this is a huge distraction for us, right? We have known about the prize money for a long time now, and we have gotten to this point where we're 2 weeks away from the tournament and not knowing where we're at, not even essentially getting a response. And so while it is frustrating that we didn't get a result, it is a huge distraction for us to have to deal with this on a daily basis, and we're having to focus on MLS play and with this in the back of our mind. So the reality is we need to get this sorted because if Vancouver wins, they're going to have to be dealing with this 4 years from now, right? And there's no language in the CBA.
That was Stefan Frei and Christian Roldan after the match this past Sunday. And so the statement that came out from MLSPA, this is from them on Instagram. MLSPA and all MLS players stand united with Seattle Sounders, who tonight demanded a fair share of the FIFA Club World Cup prize money. FIFA's new tournament piles on to players' ever-increasing workload without regard to their physical well-being in order to seize this additional calendar terror club and player participation. As a result, MLS will receive an unprecedented financial windfall. Despite this windfall, the league has refused to allocate a fair percentage of those funds to the players themselves. For months, the players have privately and respectfully invited the league to discuss bonus terms, yet MLS has failed to bring forward a reasonable proposal. Instead of recognizing the players who have brought MLS to the global stage, the league, which routinely asks the PA to deviate from the CBA, is clinging to an out-of-date CBA provision and ignoring long-standing international standards on what players typically receive from FIFA prize money in global competitions. It is the players who make the game possible. It is the players who are lifting MLS up on the global stage. They expect to be treated fairly and with respect. So then Gabriel Schray decided to have the airing of the grievances as well. And Gabriel Schray said, as a part of the story, let me see if I can. Is it going to be anything in there? No. Okay. So here is what Gabriel Schray said in response to what the MLSPA posted to their Instagram account. Gabriel Schray, quote, "It's always the same story. We stand together, quote, we stand together, yet nothing ever happens. MLSPA is a disgrace." Once again, this is Gabriel Schray. "Full of gas and air. Same tired routine. Show up, make a statement, disappear. It's constantly the same BS," but he used the bigger word. "It's all token gestures and excuses. The league's had you by the balls for years now, and you're still playing nice. Enough. Clear house and get real fighters in who will actually stand up and do something besides make blanking T-shirts or effing T-shirts and take pictures. Time for MLS players to take control, clear house." So Gabriel Schray, less than pleased about everything that was attached to the statement from the MLSPA about the wearing of the T-shirts and Mr. Monopoly and everything there that happened on Sunday. So there is something of I'm not going to say necessary. I'm not going to say upheaval, but you end up with displeasure, shall we say, from folks who are either current players or former players, and in this case, it is a former player. So Gabriel Schray less than pleased with the MLSPA and the MLSPA response to what the Seattle players did in their response to the Club World Cup pool money and being this close to the tournament and all of that. So keep an eye on all of that. So keep an eye on just the MLSPA in general, not necessarily the displeasure that was announced in T-shirt form on Seattle on Sunday, but just keep an eye with what's going on with conversations inside the MLSPA and how everything is laid out there. Fabrizio Romano, Al Hilal have reached an agreement with AC Milan for Teo Hernandez, €30 million initial fee, $5 million add-ons accepted. Still no agreement on personal terms. Teo will decide soon whether he wants to accept the proposal or remain in Europe. And so Fabrizio Romano now announcing all of that going forward. All right, so we're going to come back to all of those other things that we were discussing. So we mentioned, and hey, look, when guests come in early, who am I to sit there and judge and go, nope, I'm not going to do it. But it's a very, very busy night in Chattanooga. And it's a busy time in Chattanooga on a couple of different fronts. So what we decided to do was reach out to a member of the posse and sit there and get the full breakdown of everything going on involving the women's side at Chattanooga FC, who've got a very, very big game tonight in the WPSL. They've got a lot going on right now in MLS Next Pro, top of the Eastern Conference, making sure that their presence is known in that way. And then also a bit of a League One update because someone that we know is very, very busy when it comes to everything going on. So we're going to dial him up and bring in our buddy Gabe Schray and find out what's going on in Chattanooga. You get out of your meetings?
Just barely. I had to run out as fast as I could to get on here. How are you, man?
You tell me. You're the busy one.
I'm telling you, I've been so busy, but I love it, and it's been a really, really good year. Just all the matches I've gotten to cover, and I love that I've reached a point where the talent I'm seeing is cyclical, right? So I'm seeing guys that played in NISA for so many years. They're playing in USL 1, and they're doing well, and I'm like, this is awesome. It's so fun.
So you're going to be busy tonight, and that was part of the reason that we wanted to bring you on was WPSL is in their sprint. And in one of the toughest conferences in the WPSL, it's a big matchup with heavyweights tonight up at Fort Finley. It is CFC's women going up against Decatur FC. What's the season been like for CFC with the new coaching staff and the player turnover and all of that?
Well, and for fans that aren't familiar, Juan Hernandez is not just a Chattanooga FC legend, but a Chattanooga sports legend. He's as good as it gets. He's first class. He knows the game. And Bueller's doing a great job helping coordinate things. They brought an all-new look to the field for this Chattanooga women's side in WPSL. They're being powered by Hannah Tillett, who was just featured in the Chattanooga Times Free Press. Great write-up there. I recommend going and checking that out if you're interested in the match. And Reese McDermott. And if you haven't seen the highlights, which I'm sure you have, John, they are playing well. They're lights out. They're fast. They're free. They're wide open. It's an attack in a style that we haven't seen from the Chattanooga women's side previously. I'm a really big fan of it. I love the wide open play. I love players out of position and kind of moving and doing their own thing. And these girls are good at it, and they're going to be a difficult stop for Decatur FC. But this is as good as it gets. I can't believe this isn't the national match of the week.
Oh, come on. Well, it is the national match of the week for us. That's why we decided to dial you up now. Come on.
I'm telling you, I'm excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Since you've had the opportunity to kind of keep an eye on them, give me somebody under the radar. Obviously, you mentioned some of the big names that are going to be attached to this matchup from a CFC perspective. But when someone either goes to Fort Finley tonight or might be watching however they want to access it, give me somebody on that second level. Give me a foot soldier that, for if things are going well for CFC on the women's side, things are going well because of this individual who's not getting all the press that they have been getting initially this season.
Good question. So I'm going to give you two, if that's okay.
Sure.
Anik Lolita Mangazuma has not scored. She hasn't got any points, but I know, right? That's a great name.
Oh, man. That's like take your breath and get ready.
But watch for her when she's on the pitch. Watch how she moves the ball forward. Anytime she has a long outlet feed, she's really good at setting up those strikers and creating those outlet looks. And I think May Hunt has been very important in midfield. She's from England, plays for South Alabama in the Sun Belt Conference during the NCAA season. She has been huge for Chattanooga this year, and I think that those two, if those two are doing well, kind of in approaching that final third of the pitch, Chattanooga will do well.
Okay, so with the new staff and the new approach, if you would please, sir, in your 5-paragraph essay,
Only for you,
for your at CFC_women 5-paragraph essay, please compare and contrast last year and this year, and whether you're talking philosophy, approach, stylistically. Break down the differences, because I know that folks may sit there and just gravitate toward what happened last year in the WPSL in the conference. But please, sir, compare and contrast in a 5-paragraph essay the differences between 24 and 25.
What am I, Chat GPT, a 5-paragraph essay on demand? I really liked Chattanooga's style last year, and I liked the staff. Another Chattanooga legend, and he does great in the Appalachian Athletic Conference, but the change is just the style of play. And I also think that the way they recruited and built this roster, the approach was just more aggressive. The way they brought in these girls, and it's almost it's still a very local focus. You see players like Kennedy Ball, who played for the CFC Academy. She's already scored a pair this season, but it just feels different. There's a spark to the way the roster is built. And I'm not sure if there was more intentionality on the way the players worked together when they built the roster, or there's just more of an intentional national focus and, a recruitment from that standpoint. Whatever it is, it's working. And so as somebody who lives in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I take my responsibility, and I'm not kidding. I'm kind of making a joke out of it, but I'm not. I do take the responsibility of being unbiased when I'm calling a match.
Oh, you should.
Very seriously, right? Yeah. As we do. But as somebody who lives there, I love it. I don't ask questions when things work and when teams that I love win, right? And that's where I'm at.
5-0 win over UFA, and for those that got to hang out with me and Drew Dickinson, we got to see what UFA has been up to this particular season. UFA has kind of stumbled out of the gate after the season that they had last year. They're 1-3 right now. Once again, losing to Atlanta Fire 1-0, losing to CFC 5-0. Then the 2-0 matchup that we had back on the 30th. And then they turned around and shut out Georgia Impact on the weekend to get their first win of the year for Iggy Malika and UFA. But in the 5-0 win against UFA, and then the 2-1 come from behind win against Georgia Impact, obviously that's got to say a lot early on in this sprint that is the Southeast Conference here in the Peachtree Division, about just how tough things can get.
Yeah, every match for these clubs feels like a championship match, right? You can't afford to lose. Every point is so crucial. And when you've got Decatur and Chattanooga in the same Peachtree Division, this is it. I mean, this is basically it right here. That's the insane part about this. I would love to see it not be that way. It makes the stakes so high, and it adds to the fun, but it also sucks out of it at the same time, because if you lose, it's over. But it should be a really fun match, and I'm excited about it. Campbell Chapman, Jack Marchant, Isabella, they do such a great job, and this roster is built so well. Got a couple high-flying scorers already this season for Decatur, so I'm just excited to see how they come together. And do you change your strategy for a match of this caliber and with the level of talent on the pitch?
Both teams 2-0 out of the blocks. Both teams have scored 7. The only difference is that Chattanooga has given up 1 less goal. And in the division right now, Atlanta Fire, 2 matches played. They have the 1 win, the 1 loss. We mentioned UFA with what's been going on with Iggy. Right now, 3 losses and the 1 win, which was really big at the bottom of the table. And then Impact out of the blocks. I know it's a bit of a surprise that Impact are 0-2 out of the blocks. But you look at this group, and I mean, it legitimately is just heavyweights across the board here. When you look at Chattanooga, Decatur, AFU, UFA, and Impact, I mean, traditionally, 3 of those teams could easily sit there, and you can make a case for them to make deep runs into the national playoff surroundings. And to your point about just how tough things are in the Southeast and in the Peachtree, I mean, you blink and you could completely and totally fall off the scale.
100%. And it's surprising to see, speaking of blinking and falling off the scale, I can't believe UFA dropped that first match 5-0 to Chattanooga. They were lights out last year. I mean, it was really, they were right in that race down to the wire. And to see the change is shocking, especially with the talent they have on their roster.
All right. So now as we change over from our discussion involving the WPSL. Oh, by the way, hit the promo for me for the match tonight. What to watch, where to watch it, how.
It is not only on Chattanooga FC's YouTube channel. Would love to have you there. You can tune in on the National Soccer Network. Shout out to Wang Daddy and the crew who are doing their morning show right now. And we'll have all the coverage. I'll have a short pregame, and we'll have the entire match and a recap as well at the close. So would love to have you with us. And if you can make it, we're not too far away. Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's Fort Finley. Come on. What is it? Everything's an hour away from Atlanta. It's an hour drive. Parking is easy. Tickets are cheap.
Our traffic, brother, it's probably going to end up as 2 because you got, and then the construction going on at just north of Eastridge, just crossing the border. It's
don't talk to me about the construction. I don't want to talk about the construction.
Everything's going like this. All right, MLS Next Pro for Chapter 2 here, out of the blocks. And the last couple of seasons, Chattanooga FC has been toward the top of the discussion in the Eastern Conference. Right now, out of the blocks, no different. 8-2-2-1, and that 1 is the fourth column, the shootout wins. Right now, played one more match than Red Bulls 2, but it's a 3-point advantage right now, 27 points. And Chattanooga FC and Red Bulls 2 are 8 points clear of the pack in the Eastern Conference. What's it been like in the first 12 matches to see what CFC have been up to in MLS Next Pro?
Well, I feel like I'm riding in a rocket ship in the passenger seat and just trying to hang on. Everything is going so well for Chattanooga, and Chris Nugent's data-driven analytical approach is incredible. The way that they have played this season is the best I've seen this Chattanooga side play. There are moments where it feels like they could beat anyone in the country, and you've seen them play so well in some of those friendlies in the preseason, and they've looked so good during the regular season. Obviously the stumble and fall against Orlando in Florida, Shaq Muhammad scored early on. I think it was the 12th minute. And it was a beautiful play. It was a rush on goal, kicked it across back to him. He's wide open. Felt like Jakupovic didn't get the help he needed over the weekend. And also, they kept drawing Chattanooga out of position, which CFC has been really good at not being drawn out of position against opponents that have tried to do that to them. But Thomas Williams and the Lions they did everything right, flicking it back and forth behind that center field circle. But other than that stumble and fall here partway through the season, everything feels like it's working for Chattanooga. They've got the pieces where they need them. They've got contributors that can come off of the bench and be very successful. They're going to be a tough stop.
They haven't lost at home this season, 4-0-1, and pretty much a mirror image on the road at 4-2-1. One of the things that stands out to me, obviously, is the defense. 12 matches played, you've only given up 12 goals for CFC. Offense kind of sitting there, and it's like, well, goal and a half, but obviously if you still score one more than the other guy, you're fine at the end of the day. But defense, to me, seems to be coming to full song before the offense. Am I wrong?
No, I agree with you. One of the biggest changes from Rod Underwood's style leading the franchise and the club from along the sideline to Chris Nugent is the amount of possession. And so Chattanooga is now satisfied to allow the opponent to possess for a large margin of every match. They're not on top of the ball as much. They're not passing it nearly as much. Rod Underwood loved to have the ball and control the pace the entire match. Chris Nugent is content to sit back and let clubs come to them, steal the ball, and create scoring opportunities on the long outlet feeds.
Saturday is the next match for the season. It's at Fort Finley, taking on Messi and Friends 2 at 7 o'clock. There's the promo for that one. Right now, out of the blocks, Messi and Friends 2, 4-7-1, 13 points. They're 12th in the Eastern Conference of the 15 that are there. So it's, when you play at Fort Finley, it's an animal that's kind of its own, because the turf surface, it kind of, if you're not comfortable with it, it's an instant advantage, I think, for CFC, and I don't anticipate this weekend being any different.
No, I agree. And the way it's prepared and played on, it's a football turf system, so it's long pile, and there's more infill in it than you'd like for a soccer-specific system. It's compacted, compressed. They do pull the lines up, which is nice for soccer. But I think it makes it a little harder to play on, even if you're used to soccer-specific turf, right? It's a little thicker and cushier than you'd like. the ball does play well on it, but you have to be ready for that if you're coming in from the outside, and it makes life difficult.
Yep. All right. So Gabe Schray hanging out with us, the Schray guy. And now that we've covered 2 of his 3 leagues, let's go to the 3rd league that you had the chance to kind of keep an eye on here. And for those that might be diving in to watch USL League ONE matchups, they hear your dulcet tones occasionally. And it is right now in USL League One. It's looks like it's 3 groups, or at least 2 groups, or maybe 2.5. You're looking at Spokane out of the blocks, which to me is a shock. They've run 5 in a row to go right up the table. They're 20 points, 3 points clear, match in hand on FC Naples. Naples kind of stumbled a little bit. They lost 3 in a row at a stretch. Charlotte Independence had a 4-game win streak. Red Wolves were unbeaten in 4 at one point. Richmond Kickers seem to be kicking themselves into 1 point each and every time they've gone out in the last 5. The Chattanooga, Richmond, One Knox, AV Alta group is probably group number 2, and then you've got group number 3 that's chasing after the bottom of what would be the playoff picture if the playoffs started today, with Greenville, Forward Madison, who you want to talk about draw kings, they certainly are that, at 1-1-6 out of the blocks in their first 8. Texoma is they've only lost once in their last 5. They seem to be catching their sea legs. P Hops the same way. Portland Hearts of Pine, who by the way are just blowing it, are really going to send me to the poorhouse when it comes to jerseys. South Georgia Tormentas kind of stumbled a little bit. Westchester at 7 points, and Union Omaha, they've had some other things on their mind, and so right now they're at the bottom of the table. But when you look at the 3 groups right now in USL League One, what sticks out?
Well, I'm shocked about Union Omaha. They've been so good historically, and to see them, cellar dwelling a little bit, it's frustrating. I talked to Coach a little bit over the last couple of weeks. I've covered them twice in the last 3 weeks, and historically so good. Coach sounds so confident every time out. Everything seems to work for them right down to the wire. So that's a club that I think could still see a mid-season shift. They're due for it. They're due for some good luck and a run of luck. Kicking, if you will, up towards the center of the league. Richmond is so good, and they're so fun to watch play. And they just, another one that it feels like they should have it all going, and something is just not there for Richmond as well. Watch Richmond. Richmond has got something special cooking. They develop talent so well. They're going to continue to grow and get better and better. My 2 matches this week, would love to have you with us on ESPN, MSG networks in New York and across the country. Portland Hearts of Pine and Chattanooga Red Wolves. That's going to be a good one. The Red Wolves have got so much talent on the roster. That's a 7 p.m. Eastern kickoff. We're going to watch Matt Bentley. He's got 4 goals scored. He's been on fire all season long. He's going to try to power the Red Wolves past the P-Hops. By the way, I got to get some of those kits. And then at 11 Eastern, Antelope Valley, sick name, by the way. Great. Love the crest. Love the branding. Welcome to USL. And Spokane, that number 1 team. And Spokane has been so good. How do you handle them? They're 6-1-2 overall. You mentioned it. They've won 5 straight. But Luis has been good. Anwar has got 6 goals. He's one of the best in USL League One. But Antelope Valley, I haven't covered them yet. I expect them to do very well. We're going to watch Cerritos and Jimmy Villalobos. They've been good this season. I think they're going to be a problem for Spokane, but I would look to see Spokane continue their winning ways.
Gabe Schray, the Schray guy. So let's see. It's USL League One on the Plus and MSG. It is, man, P-Hop. Man, they're going to send me to the poorhouse. Everything going on with CSC and MLS Next Pro when you're not doing that. And then everything going on tonight at Fort Finley in the WPSL and one of the toughest conferences around in the Peachtree Division of the Southern. As always, my friend, great to see you. And thanks for dropping in, especially when the real world intervened and we couldn't have you on early. So when the real world ended, you rushed in here. Do you need a note from us to go to the principal's office?
I couldn't get here fast enough. I probably do, but we'll get away with it.
All right. Be good, my friend. We'll see you soon. Don't be a stranger.
Love you, SDH. Love you, John Nelson. See you soon.
Be good. All right. So there goes Gabe. And so that's your rundown of anything and everything going on. Literally, Gabe is like one of those epicenters, it's like literally. So he's got a lot of things we can talk to him about. And so when we can do a lot of things we can talk to him about in like 20 minutes, we do exactly that. So Gabe came in early. We got 20 minutes out of it. We got to talk about the WPSL. So literally, if you are obviously a fan of Decatur FC and can make the 2-hour drive, and I mentioned that because of traffic. Yes, I know kids are out of school. But yes, I know it's a 2-hour drive because of construction, especially at the split, the 75-24 split. to go into Chattanooga, go up the hill, over the mountain, and down into downtown toward Fort Finley. Just give yourself 2 hours to get there for the tailgating. Mandatory. So it's a big matchup tonight in the WPSL. Like I said, Drew Dickinson and I will have Decatur FC when they come back home on Friday night on the WPSL networks, and you'll get that one. But for tonight, Decatur FC, this is the early marker that you're looking for. All right, so who's going to have the inside track to be number one in the Peachtree Division in the South? And so, frankly, I'm anticipating a draw. But you look at what Fort Finley is with that turf surface, and it creates problems if you're not adjusted to it because of tricky hops, because of how the ball checks up, because of all the things that are there. It's going to be an interesting test. So if you can be there and watch in person at Fort Finley, please do so. If you can watch it tonight with Gabe on all of the streaming platforms, please do so, because it's that important a marker for that matchup tonight in the WPSL. And so MLS Next Pro, obviously, we got to catch up with Chris Nugent before the season started. We got to catch up with CFC and before their season started on the women's side. And so you're seeing, once again, 8 points clear. You get Chattanooga FC and Red Bulls, too, 8 points clear in the Eastern Conference right now. Gabe mentioned being on a rocket ship, and the team that's third right now is Huntsville City Football Club. And so you've got that going on. And then, obviously, with USL League One, it was important to catch up with him there, too, because of what's going on in the local sphere with Chattanooga out of the blocks at 3-1-4. And remember, they've got Jägermeister Cup going on at the same time that you have league play going on. So you have to kind of keep an eye out for that as well. But Spokane Velocity, FC Naples at 17 points. Like I said, they lost 3 in a row. But FC Naples have played 10 matches. And they're off and running in their season. And remember, they took some surprises and Open Cup along the way, as did Red Wolves. Red Wolves once again unbeaten in 4 in a stretch. Richmond, the only issue that I've got with Richmond is that Richmond's already played 11 matches. They played the most matches in League One so far right now. And One Knox, as an example, has 4 matches in hand on Richmond. 4. One Knox has played only 7 league matches so far this season, so you got to keep an eye on that. AV Alta, it's great to see them in Lancaster, California, doing what they're doing, and once again, they had their moment in the sun in the Open Cup as well. Greenville, Forward Madison, 1-1-6. That just blows my mind. 1-1-6 for Forward Madison right now. That's crazy. Texoma, like I said, Texoma seems to have kind of found their sea legs a little bit, got off to the rough start. And they're 1 point out of the playoff picture. Portland Hearts of Pine 1-1-5. They got their first win the other time out. But then you look at South Georgia Tormenta once again. They lost 3 in a row. They lost on the April 20th, and then they lost on May 10. Then they lost on May 24. They lost their last 3 in league. Westchester's kind of stumbled a little bit. They've only got 3 points in their last 5. Union Omaha, 2 points in their last 5. But Dom Casiato, I would anticipate that once they've kind of settled in, and then they'll start to make their runs and work their way forward. So Union Omaha right now at the bottom of the table, match or 2 in hand, depending on who you're talking to. But right now, that's what you're staring at when it comes to USL League One. We mentioned USL Championship, and Benny Feilhaber now taking over in Oakland. He came from a Sporting Kansas City 2. Served as their head coach of the last 3 seasons, 32, 33, and 15, reaching the playoffs in the 23 season when they finished 3rd in the West. And so Oakland Roots president Lindsey Barons, once again, excited to have him take over. And it was Gavin Glinton relieved duties on Monday. And he had just led the team for over a year, being appointed on April 28th of 2024. 14, 19, and 5, a minus 24 goal difference in the regular season. Roots had conceded the most goals in the championship so far this season to date, with a record of 3-7-1. So that's an average of 2 goals a match that were given up, putting them 11th in the Western Conference. And so they feel compelled to make a switch at the top. Benny Feilhaber, the new head coach at Oakland Roots. Loudoun United adding Hakeem Karamoko on loan from DC United, the number 10 selection in the 25 Super Draft. 2 appearances in MLS this season. Colorado Springs signing defender Tyler Clegg had made 1 appearance for Sacramento Republic this season. So that's where you are with the 24-team USL Championship and everything going on. But once again, thanks to Gabe Schray, because he's a very, very busy man. We tried to bring him in when we could to talk about everything that we could. The other point David mentions about what Breck Shea was saying. To quote his old boss, when we were doing bids, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. They'll be fine. Owners will get richer now, but the next CBA or when trying to recruit players to MLS, this will be remembered. You're not kidding. So Shea thinks Seattle should put up a second-team lineup out and park the bus and play an embarrassing game. Okay, I'm fine with that. Embarrass the league. And then assume all the rules they claim the PA has bowed to involve adding National League, changing U.S. upcoming process, et cetera. I'm guessing as much, but I'm sure that there are other things when it comes to percentages of revenue share and things like that that are probably a part of the discussion as well. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. So let's say hi to everybody. I don't think I said hi to everybody who had joined in on the Twitch pitch this morning. Let's see. Morning, David. Morning, good morning, Rich. And Rich, once again, reminding us, Auckland City and Atlas, according to Jose Nunez, are going to be 2 union friendlies in 3 days. But yeah, keep an eye on Auckland City. I think Auckland City is going to be one of those teams in the Club World Cup that we're going to keep an eye on for various reasons. But yes, definitely keep an eye on that one. But no, it'll be fun. Auckland City, and keep an eye on them. Let's see. Morning, David. And morning, Rich. And so that's everybody that's on in the Twitch pitch this morning. But thanks to all of you folks that are out there watching, as you always are. Let me see what else. What else did I have on the list? Oh yes, the annual meetings with the Premier League, having to do with the PSR rules and Chelsea and the Chelsea funds. Chelsea's been making a lot of news. And also, it appears that Youngmin's son is set to leave Spurs. Sam Wallace at the Telegraph, and this just came out a little bit ago, could be another high-profile departure seeking to generate transfer funds, reshaping the squad ahead of the return to Champions League. Opportunity for Spurs to generate a fee for Son, who lifted the trophy. 1 year left on the existing contract after the club triggered an option for another year this January. Saudi Pro Leagues clubs have long been interested, and it would be one of the greats of Spurs of the last 2 decades. So currently with the South Korea national team playing their final 2 World Cup qualifiers against Iraq and Kuwait this month. They need 1 point to reach the tourney. Son is not expected to feature any prominent role as he recovers from injury. And so Ange Postecoglou, future looking in doubt, color me shocked. No assurances yet. He's been on holiday in Europe. Telegraph reported Monday Levy's key aide at the club, Donna Cullen, is stepping down after a long period of service with ENIC, the company that controls Spurs. Cullen has been on the board at the club since 2006. In addition, questions over the future of finance director Matthew Collicott. So keep an eye on Youngmin's son apparently now and Spurs. Let's see. What was this and we'll get into the PSR thing involving Chelsea in a bit. When Martin Ziegler writes something, you know you're in trouble. Tom Morgan and Zuping Chan, the economics editor at the Telegraph. Rachel Reeves is threatening Roman Abramovich over the frozen £2.35 billion Chelsea sale funds. The chancellor says that Labour is prepared to take the former owner to court over the proceeds of the club's sale meant for Ukraine. And Rachel Reeves, the chancellor is taking a personal lead in attempting to force the funds released for Ukraine aid. The fund has remained in limbo as Abramovich remains at loggerheads with ministers over how it is spent on war victims. The Labour government has been holding the same line as the previous Tory administration and insisting the sum is spent only on Ukraine. As talks stall, Reeves and David Lammy, the foreign secretary, are now threatening court action. Senior ministers have been debating for years how best to deal with Abramovich, who's maintained throughout his initial agreement with the government was to release the fund for, quote, all victims, end quote, of the war. The possibility of action via the courts was previously toyed with by the Conservative government, sources close to the talks say. With Labour making no progress since coming to power, however, Reeves is understood to have played a key role in pursuing a new, tougher, on-the-record position. And then there's a new statement Doors of negotiation will remain open, fully prepared to pursue this for the courts if required to ensure the people suffering in Ukraine can benefit from these proceeds as soon as possible. Morning, Dell. No final decision has been made on taking Abramovich through the courts to seize the assets. Such action against the oligarch would inevitably be lengthy and messy, according to Morgan and Su Ping Chan. So the government, the British government is threatening to take Roman Abramovich to court. So we'll keep an eye on that. So Martin Ziegler, as we mentioned, the Premier League meetings that are going to be happening over the next 2 days. And where is it? It has to do with Martin Ziegler and with Chelsea, the closing of the loophole that helped them comply with PSR. You'll remember that Chelsea decided what they wanted to do was sell things to themselves. And apparently they could do that. And so they weren't too happy about it. And so now they're looking to change that rule. According to Ziegler, Premier League planning to make a new proposal to clubs to close that loophole that allowed Chelsea to register a profit from selling hotels and their women's teams to a sister company. Chelsea sold the women's team for a stated £198.7 million. Though the value of the deal has yet to be approved by the Premier League, and they also sold the 2 hotels for 70.5. Deals have helped the club comply with PSR over the last 2 years. And remember, the annual meetings take place today and tomorrow. Clubs are expected to be asked to vote on a change to the rules so that such transactions cannot be declared as income for PSR purposes. You need a vote of at least 14-6, 14 in the affirmative for it to pass. Club sources told the Times wording of the proposal could be crucial as a vote on the issue this time last year failed to go through because clubs felt the wording was too broad and would also stop them declaring income from selling assets such as property to unrelated parties. It's also understood some clubs believe that Chelsea have previously benefited from the loophole, then others should be allowed the same opportunity. Final draft of the wording of the proposed rule change is still being worked on by the Premier League before the annual meeting. UEFA does not accept the sale of assets to sister companies as income, and as previously revealed, Chelsea is in talks with the European governing body over a financial settlement for breaching its financial rules, which limit the losses a club can make and the amount they can spend on wages, transfers, and agents' fees in relation to their revenue. Remember, Chelsea transferred ownership of the women's team to a sister company called Blueco 22 Midco. Blueco 22 Midco. 2 days before the June 30 deadline for the 23-24 finances to be registered, that allowed Chelsea FC Holdings Limited to record a £129.6 million profit in 23-24, but for UEFA's purposes, it goes down as a £70.4 million loss. 198 from 129. The club's ultimate holding company, 22 Holdco Limited. I feel like I need an econ degree because my head's hurting. Which also owns Strasbourg, recorded a $445 million loss in 23-24. As the finances from all the subsidiary companies are consolidated, it too cannot include the women's sale as income. Chelsea believe that a recent 8% investment by Alexis Ohanian puts the value of the women's team at £245 million. £445 million loss. And if you can sort out 22 Holdco, Chelsea FC Holdings, and Blueco 22 Midco, you're a better man than I. Yikes. And by the way, the Shalman Kelleher transfer to Brentford is now official. And Simone Inzaghi has accepted to sign for Al Hilal as their new coach, set to part ways with Inter after 4 years. It is officially a here we go from Fabrizio Romano. 3-year deal, ambitious project, plans decided. 1 Serie A title, 2 Coppa Italia, 3 Italian Super Cups, and 2 Champions League finals in 2 years. So that is news from Fabrizio Romano in a here we go status. And how confident is Brentford in the announcement? They've released a picture of Chalman Kelleher to use. Quotes from Phil Giles, FC Director of Football, and Manu Sotelo, first-team keeper coach. So we have that. So it is officially official. Chalman Kelleher is now with Brentford after Mark Flecken has gone to Germany, and Simone Inzaghi is now at Al Hilal for the next 3 seasons. So Crystal Palace is trying to figure out how they can keep their European football status. They're trying to figure out how Lyon can keep their football status. Brentford has signed a keeper from Liverpool, finally going to give him first-team minutes. Manchester United is chasing after Brian Mbeumo for at least £50 million, while at the same time, the folks at Manchester United did not get to move Bruno Fernandes along. So you're going to keep Bruno Fernandes. You won't have the $100 million that was offered-ish. You're going to spend another 50 at least to bring in Brian Mbeumo. Thomas Frank is now being looked at as a possible replacement for Ange Postecoglou, who's still hanging in the balance for a 3rd season at Spurs after winning a trophy. Yeonmin Son could be moved along to help things out financially. And the Premier League is looking to close loopholes when it comes to selling things to yourself to improve your bottom line so you don't get found in violation of PSR. Did I miss anything? I think that's it. Yes, absolutely true. David, you are spot on. You are absolutely spot on. Blue Co 22 Midco sounds like Peyton Manning killing the audible. Omaha, Blue Co 22 Midco. Omaha, check purple. Absolutely. You are absolutely correct. And yes, Chelsea did sign 15.7 million players last year. That is absolutely true. And Dell is going to the TST tomorrow and Thursday. Just be careful. He says, hoping to see Nani again, Aguero, Hope Solo, Andy Carroll, Carly Lloyd, and others. Just be careful when you're around. Nani. And, maybe Aguero will take off his shirt. But yeah, TST, 7v7. That's going to be fun on a bunch of different levels. And so, yes, Dell, you and Drew Dickinson, quite happy, I'm sure, about keeping Bruno and trying to figure out what to do. But, yeah, so you're keeping Bruno and you're chasing after Mbeumo. Keeping Bruno, chasing Mbeumo. I think that's right. I think that's everybody. So you got all that. I don't know if you saw this, and this is kind of going down the ladder a little bit, but there are folks in the lower divisions. You know how we always talk about Pro Rel, and there are some that are kind of mad. An open letter came from the co-chair at York City requesting reform in the National League to allow 3 teams to be promoted in the future as opposed to just the 2. And what happened there was, guess which team did not get promoted through the promotion, relegation, and playoff system? Hers. York, by the way, finished 2nd in the league, in the National League, which is the one where they have the big promotional thing. And the team that wins the National League, which is Premier League, Championship, League 1, League 2, 5th tier. So the team that wins the 5th tier goes in, and they go in automatically. Then you have 2 through 7 fight it out. 2 and 3 get the first round bye, basically. Then 4, 5, 6, and 7, they fight it out, and then they play 2 and 3, and then those winners try to figure out who's the second team that gets promoted to the to League 2. Julianne Ugla's York City finished 2nd in the regular season, but they did not win the playoff series, the playoff play-ins. after finishing 13 points clear of team number 3 and 23 points clear of the team that eventually would make it through the playoffs and go into League Two. So naturally, she is mad that her club, who finished second, didn't make it out of the playoff structure to join Barnet to join League Two next year. So what she has said, she's calling for an immediate reform of the promotion relegation system between the EFL and the National League that would have seen her club get promoted. But, once again, if you don't win, then, it ain't happening for you. So she got mad and she said such a glaring imbalance not only undermines sporting merit, but erodes the very foundations of fair competition. To dominate a league campaign so comprehensively, even though you finished second, only to be forced into a playoff lottery is structurally unjust. It penalizes excellence and rewards inferiority. While I'm aware of the historical basis for the two-up structure, it is no longer fit for purpose. So York City Football Club's co-chair, Julianne Ugla, is mad. She wants it changed to where the top two go in, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6, or what. She didn't offer a solution, I don't think. But basically, the top two should go in, and then everybody else needs to fight for themselves. But yeah, her biggest thing was she was mad that they were at plus 53 in goal difference. They finished 6 points behind Barnet, and still were dropped into the playoff structure. Didn't make it out of the playoff structure with Forest Green, Rochdale, Oldham, FC Halifax, and Southend United, where there was a 28 point difference between 2 and 7 in the National League. York didn't make it out of the playoffs from 2 through 7. They didn't survive it, so they don't go up, and they're now in the National League again next season. So she's mad. She penned a letter. She wants everything changed in the promotion and relegation system between the EFL and the National League. Had it been just 1 and 2, she'd have gone up. But it's 1 and then 2 through 7 fighting it out amongst themselves. So she penned a letter. She's mad, and I don't anticipate what's going on there. Dell wants to know about Garnacho. Garnacho is being chased, and he is being looked at and considered, but we'll see what happens there. And it is going to be an interesting offseason for Manchester United. I will tell you that right now. With everybody else that's there, what's going to happen, who's going to go and who's going to stay. And you had Bruno Fernandes, who was sought, but he's not leaving. And you're going to invest another $50 million and probably bringing in Brian Mbeumo. And yeah. So there's that. But you got 200 redundancies, and you get to fire folks. I'm just saying. So, yes, any screaming that you hear is traditionally involving our buddy Drew Dickinson. So now, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it before we get out of here. Inter hoping to sign Rasmus Højlund on loan this summer from Gazzetta dello Sport. Crystal Palace's Jean-Philippe Mateta also on United's striker shortlist, but they may face competition from Juve and AC Milan. Miles Lewis-Skelly expected to sign a new deal at Arsenal this summer. Gunners keen to ward off interest from Real Madrid, 4-letter paper. Liverpool have agreed to a contract with Florian Wirtz until 2030, but have yet to agree to a fee. Bayer Leverkusen rejecting €130 million as they hold out for 150. Basically, it's £17 million difference. Barcelona has started initial talks with Luis Diaz on interest from Saudi Arabia. Chelsea considering a move for Jared Branthwaite from Everton. Spurs could rival the Blues for his signature. We mentioned Joe Bellingham choosing to join his brother Jude's former club Dortmund instead of Eintracht Frankfurt or RB Leipzig. We mentioned the figure that's attached to that. We also mentioned Chelsea and Jamie Gittins that could cost about $50 million from Dortmund. Manchester City close to agreeing to a deal for AC Milan's midfielder Thierry Reinders in time for the FIFA Club World Cup. Because remember, you're in the extraordinary window for the next week. Everton, Manchester United, West Ham could make a move for Alexander Mitrovic. Al Hilal prepared to offload him. Brighton keeping tabs on Sheffield United midfielder Ali Arblaster. That's a hell of a name. Arblaster. As he continues his recovery from an ACL injury. And it looks like Jack Wilshere, according to the 3-letter paper, is going to be taking over the new manager at Plymouth Argyle. Now, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Remember, tomorrow on the show, Tyler Pilgrim, Dylan Butler, Steve Livingston from Sporting Jacks. We're going to discuss what's going on at Sporting Jacks, a very, very busy time at Sporting Jacks. Today, Fox Deportes is in the Maurice Ravello tournament, the U20 tournament. France and Saudi Arabia at the bottom of the hour. MLS Next Pro, FC Cincinnati 2, Philadelphia Union 2. That's at 7 o'clock. Women's Nations League from UEFA on CBS Sports Network at 1, Spain and England. The U20 Championships. Puerto Rico and Guyana is at 1. USA and Costa Rica is at 4. USA-Jamaica Friendly is at 8 o'clock. TNT, Universo, Max, and Peacock all simulcasting. And Fox Soccer Plus has Spain and England from UEFA Nations League. That is at 1 o'clock. So once again, busy day on a bunch of different fronts. Thanks to Gabe Schray for dropping in to break down everything going on. Big matchup in the WPSL tonight. A lot of things going on with CFC on the men's side and MLS Next Pro, top of the pops in the Eastern Conference. And a lot of things interesting in USL League One going on. A lot of stuff going on in Major League Soccer. Club World Cup. Remember, there's a press conference in Macon this afternoon. So we'll find out what happens there with that particular press conference and see what it means in the landscape of anything and everything going on. And we'll have reports on that tomorrow. But once again, tomorrow, Tyler Pilgrim, Dylan Butler, Steve Livingston, Sporting Jacks, and all the other news that we have that's fit the print. Once again, one other thing before we get out of here, and it'll be posted later this morning. First off, thanks to the Rally Foundation and to the Brewer family for the SDH Sunday Extra. It was a privilege to put that piece together, considering how difficult a subject it is. And if you haven't had the chance to go to soccerdownhere.net, go ahead and go there and read. It's the SDH Sunday read about a very, very special little girl and the relationship that she and her family have with Atlanta United and the Rally Foundation. We're posting, and the video version is up on our YouTube channel. If you haven't had the chance, go. There was one question that I left off the board that really has its own legs. And it has to do with advice that the foundation and the family would give to anyone who is facing childhood cancer in their day-to-day, and what advice they would give to those who are not necessarily directly involved, but are attached to it. So the audio is going to go out later this morning. And the video of the conversation that we had with the Brewer family and with the Rally Foundation's Dean Crow is on our YouTube channel. It's like 11 minutes long. So it's a quick listen, just advice that they would give for anybody who is touched by childhood cancer in their spheres and what they would say in return. So once again, thanks to the Brewer family, thanks to the Rally Foundation, and thanks to Atlanta United for having the Brewers as honorary captains for the Orlando match. You might have noticed that they were the honorary captains for the last home match against Orlando City. And so that's the story behind it, is the Sunday read and a little bit of the piece that we posted to audio and that we're posting to audio and is posted to video. So that's your rundown of that. And once again, we can't thank them enough for letting us help tell the story. That's another go-round of SDH AM. Thanks once again to Gabe Schray. Thanks to all of you guys. And we'll break it all down for you tomorrow and let you know what's going on in and around the planet. And we'll take the tour of Major League Soccer, what happened last week. Get you ready. We'll start kind of getting ready for everything going on this weekend. There's some friendlies, as Rich knows, with Auckland City and Atlas up in Philly. And we'll get you ready for the matches that are going on this weekend to make up for the matches that didn't happen last weekend because of competitions and such, and folks that opted to play during an international window. Tomorrow we'll also get into, the one thing we didn't get into today was who's being released for international windows. And that was, let me see if, because Atlanta United's list, I think I might have just double clutched an ending here. So here are the, no, that's not what I touched. So Yeah, I think I did double clutch and ending. So here we go. The June window. And we'll go over it more tomorrow. It'll be more of a focus. And especially when we have Tyler Pilgrim coming on at 9:15. Luis Abram, Miguel Almiron, Luke Brennan, Dominic Chongqui, Noah Cobb, Jay Fortune, Latelat, Saba, Efren Morales, and Bart Sleesh. 3, 6, 9, 10, and then there were 2 others that were announced going to U18s and such. Braden Dunham was one of them, and let me find the other because I thought it was an even dozen that were called for Atlanta United. Caden Moore and Braden Dunham also called up. So Caden Moore and Dunham, each named to the U18s that are going in the Friendship Cup in Nyon, Switzerland. Drawn in Group A, Chongqui and Moore started. Dunham made a substitute appearance back on June 1st. They're going to face Argentina tomorrow and Australia on Saturday. Chongqui and Moore both made their first appearances for the U18s in March of this year. Dunham received his first call-up for this camp, made his first appearance on Sunday. So you have Abram Almiron, DCQ for the U18s, Luke Brennan, Noah Cobb for the U20s, Luis Abram, Peru, Almiron, Paraguay, Jay Fortune, Trinidad and Tobago, Latelat, Ivory Coast, Saba for Georgia, Efren Morales, Bolivia, Bart Sleesh for Poland. That's Atlanta. That barely scratches the surface. 2 in Austin, 4 in Charlotte, 4 for Chicago, 3 in Cincy, plus another U18 call-up. 2 for Colorado, 7 for Crew, 4 for Dallas, 4 for DC United, 2 for Houston, 2 at Sporting, 2 in LA for the LAG, 4 for LAFC, 5 for Messi and Friends, 6 for Minnesota United, 3 for CF Montreal, 6 for Nashville, 4 for the Revs, 7 for Red Bulls, 7 for NYC across all U17, U18, U21, and Team USA. 6 for Orlando City, 8 for Philadelphia, 3 for Portland, 5 for RSL, 7 for San Diego, 3 for San Jose, 3 for Seattle, 2 for all caps, 1 in the U18s, Makai Joyner in the U19s, 2 for Toronto, and 9 for Vancouver. So that's what you're staring at. But Atlanta United, 10+2, and we'll talk about that tomorrow with Tyler Pilgrim, and we'll go through the window, we'll go through what it looks like, and we'll find out what it means for a lot of folks going through this window, and especially this weekend because there are matches. We'll go through all of that tomorrow. Full show tomorrow, and we'll get you ready for everything going on across the board here in the world of soccer. So for everybody here at SDH, thanks for dropping by on a very, very busy news day, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow. Since it is the end of the show, it means we get to do this. Back at it again in less than 22. Thanks for dropping by. We'll see you.